We were talking about this afternoon when you did broadcast news and you wanted to do some research into broadcasting. Not that there's much to be learned, really. But you spent some time with a guy who's a great friend of ours, who's been on the show many times, and I think as good as it gets for sportscasting. Marv Albert, yeah. What was that like?
It was great. He really knew his stuff, and I was pleased. I was glad to know that not only did he know his stuff on camera and stuff, but he knows it off and even more. He's encyclopedic and he's human.
Yeah.
We had dinner afterwards at this deli, where they had this sandwich, which for some reason was named Hurt, and it was good. It was a good sandwich.
It was your sandwich, right?
It was my sandwich.
And what were the ingredients of this?
I don't remember. Marv was talking so much.
And was there also a Marv sandwich?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember, though, being on the floor of the basketball court.
Madison Square Garden?
It's small.
Yeah.
And the men are large.
Yeah.
And they move fast.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more contact than you ever perceive on camera.
Yeah.
It's a very physical game.
Much more physical.
So graceful and amazing. I was really caught up with it then.
Did what about the profession of broadcasting did you learn or observe that you thought was important by watching Marv?
By watching Marv. Well, not a lot about broadcasting. I like the fact that he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
I don't get that feeling from all of them.
Yeah, he's a very bright guy. And also, I think I keep forgetting this, at one time he was a ball boy for the Knicks. That's true. Yeah. So he's been associated.
He has a dream life in the sports.
Are you a sports fan yourself?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's been getting harder in New York to do that.
Yeah.
Some people have sort of been spoiling the brew.
Like who?
Like, oh God, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Well, no, you don't have to say, but I mean,
I think Steinbrenner. I like Steinbrenner.
Yeah, yeah. And then, would the Yankees be your first team of preference? Would they be the
baseball team?
Yeah, yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And who would you follow?
Now?
Yeah.
The Red Sox. I'd have to move back to the Red Sox.
And what do you know of their season upcoming?
Not much. I know that the season's late, and then they're, and so I think, I keep looking at all these guys fighting for the money, and it kind of wrecks it.
Yeah.
But,
it's interesting with baseball, though. If you have a team that was your team when you were about 8, 9, or 10, whenever you started being interested in baseball, doesn't make any difference where you go.
It's hard to follow.
How old you get, what turns your life have given you. You still have that team.
You got to tug. Your heart. You get connected to it. I mean, that's like people. I still meet people who are broken-hearted about the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And the Giants and all the teams that have moved around.
Yeah. So what are you working on now?
I just am finishing working on a really interesting thing with Woody Allen, and then I'm starting a film in Europe with a man directing named Wim Wenders, who directed Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire.
Fucking did not expect the man to say Wim Wenders, but yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, shout out Paris, Texas, which movie we covered that I actually really enjoyed.
Oh, that was a great film.
Yeah.
What is it? Was it Until the End of the World? Okay, I should know, but that movie is literally like 6 hours long. That makes the Murder Night Extravaganza stream look like a short film, basically.
How's it compared to Drive My Car?
Still watching. I'll let you know when I'm done.
How does it compare to the movie that I heard about from the Horror Vanguard guy, Ashley, that it's just a boat for 34 hours? That's the longest movie ever made or something.
No, I'm not.
That dude watched that whole movie. That dude watched that whole movie to cover it on his podcast.
Look, people do all kinds of weird shit. I can't fucking explain it.
I remember like 15 years ago, there was a game that's called Go Left. And all it is your character, you go left. But eventually, that
game has been my whole last like decade of my life. Go left.
But here's the big twist in the game. If you're not paying attention, there is a hole eventually that you have to jump over.
That sounds like going left.
It's it. Once again, it's Forest Life.
Yeah, so I got bored at work one day and just left the computer on the game and just put like a roll of quarters on the keyboard. Went
basically left, it's that game. It's that game, and you just keep going left and left and left, and then Russia's invasion of Ukraine is right there, and you have to jump over that and keep.
By the way, it is Until the End of the World, which is fantastic, but these days would be a prestige television series. Instead, because Wim Wenders is a genuine madman, we cover Paris, Texas. It is quite literally a 6-hour movie.
And the greatest soundtrack ever recorded.
It's beautiful. It's awesome. I adore it, but it's like, yeah, you're not something you're gonna watch on a whim. It's like, let's make a weekend of this.
No, but
you're not gonna watch it on a Vim. You're not gonna watch it on a Vim either.
Get that soundtrack. And on a whim. Soundtrack's phenomenal.
I have 2 comments about everything you guys just said. So Paris, Texas is a band from Madison, Wisconsin from like the mid 90s that was really big, kind of emo band. And 3 and
well, it's kind of an emo movie.
Two wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. So there you go. Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I have to contribute to there's my contribution. Thank you, and I forgive you.
3 left to a guillotine, I think. That's yeah, but I think that clip was interesting. It's part of a larger and I'm sure it got a bunch of play when he passed away recently. A larger William Hurt interview with David Letterman, where he's a very mercurial individual, and it seems like he kind of feels like an impenetrable wall in some ways, and like all of these the small talk kind of rushes right over it.
An impenetrable will, if you will. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. The one thing I grabbed from that interview was him talking about baseball players and money, because I know the late 80s was about the time that the collusion trials were going on.
Oh yeah,
Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Where I know Jack Morris was like exhibit number 1 for he won at the time the largest arbitration thing. If anyone's familiar with the arbitration process in baseball, after you've had so many years of service, when you don't just go and get another contract, you have to go to arbitration. And basically you could have won 3 games in the World Series and been Cy Young Award, but the team that you play for is going to do everything they can to knock you down so that they don't have to pay as much. Well, Jack Morris, who was really good pitcher in the 80s, when it got to the late 80s, he realized that he became a free agent, and free agency wasn't very new. But so he realized that, man, I'm going to all these teams and they're lowballing me. When he clearly should have. And I think he was one of the first players to make $1 million a year. But it was around the late 80s. There was 2 different trials. So it's funny how he talks about that, and in the sense of these players, going for the money, where it's all beneath them now because they're getting money. Right. I wonder how much money William Hurt made throughout his career.
Probably did okay.
I wonder how many times he turned down roles because they weren't paying him enough. They didn't,
because his bank account
was offering him $1 million rather than 3. Yeah.
His bank account will be hurt by these roles.
Yes, but that alone, you're talking about this wall. Like he immediately like gives like kind of this, it's very slight and very subtle, but this, he you can't watch sports anymore because it's all about money. You know.
I mean, I wonder how much of it. He seems like he wasn't a very avid sports fan, and it seems like David Letterman was
that
to kind of get to him. And I wonder, with you saying that, like, how much of that was just because that's what's in the news, and it's just kind of like what you're supposed to say on a talk show, right? Like,
you got a himbo on. You know, if you have a himbo on, you're gonna talk about himbo stuff. And like,
but I mean, Will Hurt kind of just being like, oh well, you know, all about the money now. You know, like I wonder how much of that was a thing about like, oh well, that's what's in the news. That's what I'm gonna jump to in my answer.
Yeah, it definitely could have been.
Yeah,
I just felt. I mean, because you could see like he was muttering under his breath a little bit about it, like this sudden like righteous indignation about, you know, people who play sports trying to also end up with the Jays during the he did along with Dave Stieb in his snake bit career. I love baseball up until like the 2010s, but 80s baseball I can talk about all day.
Moneyball, no.
that's a whole other show. It's a whole other podcast. You know, probably with Ian from Calvin Walled City.
Which would be great. He has that Productive Outs podcast, but he's coming on to do Dead or Alive, which is gonna be awesome. It's either that or Stalker, and I was like, let's go for the unconventional choice. Not that Stalker's conventional, right? Like, you know, I think my Letterboxd review says that like Stalker makes David Lynch look like Michael Bay, but like, but like it's like of course it's a film. Yeah, like I love it, but it's like. It's like central casting for a movie podcast to talk about. Whereas Dead or Alive, I'm like, that's interesting. Let's do that. So that's a good idea. And we haven't really. I guess we could even do a whole sports month, which would be hilarious for me.
I'm not a big sports fan either, but I do actually appreciate. There's some great like For the Love of the Game. It's a baseball movie starring Kevin.
For the Love of the Game.
Costner.
You know, just playing, not expecting anything in a contract. See?
And I really enjoy it. I you know, it's got like all these strikes against it to throw in a baseball metaphor.
By the way, I should say, since you mentioned Stalker, Varn said Tarkovsky is like his favorite.
Tarkovsky's great. I love Tarkovsky. It's awesome. I mean,
so he'd be a good person to have on for any of those.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I'm.
But of course, we're boycotting Russian cinema until you know.
As good liberals do.
JB, remember on when we were at in Madison at the bar that Salvation played at? I can't think of the name right now.
The Wisco.
The Wisco. Yeah, we're talking about the best. What are the best sports movies?
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I offered up Rudy, even though it's like only like a mid-tier movie. I think it occupies a certain area.
A lot of people love that movie, though. It definitely qualifies.
Inarguably to me, at least the original Rocky. Although I have strong thoughts about the entire franchise. It's not so much about the sport. But I really like Moneyball. I think Moneyball is an excellent movie. I think it's fascinating.
It's good. And it's actually, and the thing I loved about Moneyball, I mean, they took some liberties here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with me and with sports movies, because I also love history and sports history being a part of it. It's like Rudy or Glory Road or Remember the Titans. They very like the movie those all or the worst movie ever, The Blind Side. Worst movie, bad. But most of those movies are so inaccurate because they have to make it. You know, a lot of these things happen over years, but they can't have it happen over a year. It's got to happen over a season, or it's got to happen over. But Moneyball, very accurate, except for the character that he was Paul DiPodesta, but the character that played in Wolf of Wall Street. You know, what's his name?
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Paul DiPodesta was like 6'4" and imposing.
Right, he's
a huge dude.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and he wasn't nerdy, like, you know, but it made more sense for that character to
Well,
be
and
like,
you have
because he was a number cruncher. He was a numbers guy.
you have
But
a
no,
Wolf of Wall
Paul
Street that invented they invented the sport of putting a little person in like a thing with wheels
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
pushing them at the wall. That was their big sport.
yeah. So yeah.
Who can
Sports-
forget the classic
yeah.
sports movie? Wolf of Wall
Yeah.
Street?
The
Yeah,
sport
but
of snorting
sports-
cocaine
yeah.
off as many things as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a sport of sorts.
Sports movies can be very good, and like
I thought you said snort
Andrew,
movie.
you said for the love of the game, that movie wasn't a baseball movie. It was a character.
It was a kissing
study.
movie.
I mean, it was a romantic, movie. I mean, it
You know,
happened to be about baseball. It happened to
Friday
be
Night
about a
Lights,
baseball.
like I was in Texas. I just moved back to Texas,
Yeah.
right into the area. I remember,
Good movie.
because
Yeah.
my middle school opening, like every Monday they
Yeah.
did all the sports scores for the area, and so
Yeah.
I was actually like getting the Friday Night Lights like each week, as it was happening. So
High school football is huge business in Texas. In the South,
it's a
Chandler.
whole other thing. I mean, you still get box seats.
Yeah, it's
like
like
if
they
you're a
have
high school
30,000 seat stadiums for high school.
Yeah, no, we had like this really old one made out of stone. It was like this castle. It's kind of amazing. But they had really cool box seats too.
Yeah, yeah.
They had that run of sports movies that was like Remember the Titans, Radio with Cuba Gooding, when he was
Yeah. Also another inaccurate movie. Another white savior inaccurate movie. But
and it's like speaking of the white savior movies, they had what's that one with Sandra Bullock?
The Blind Side.
Yeah,
That's
The
what I
Blind Side,
said.
yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
And
The Blind
Michael
Side, yeah.
Orr, the guy who it's actually about, they interviewed him. He's like, "Oh yeah, 90% of it's fiction." He was
like that white family did not make my football career. Like that movie makes it seem like that white family kind of
He's like,
hurt me, and then I started excelling. Like I was playing football like on my own.
Yeah,
But, everyone
like
likes
3
watching
years,
Sandra Bullock. Be the
They
motivational,
teach him.
the
that
motivational
movie.
white lady. Yeah,
That movie gets on my nerves.
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull is a good.
like,
That's a good.
just,
I don't even think of that as a sports movie though. I don't know. I just.
Well, yeah, it's not. It
And I know we
kid
touched
that plays
on Rocky, but Creed, I think, stands up
Yeah.
on its own.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've never part of the
I
Rocky
don't like
franchise, but it really does.
cultural, I don't like the cultural appropriation of Raging Bull, making it seem like Robert De Niro started rap music when he at the end of it, where he's standing in front of everyone and he's like he's doing that run. No, do you know? I made that joke when I talked about it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I made that joke when I talked about it with Ben on an argument too.
Well, I mean, the real Jake LaMotta is fascinating, right? But and I think that's an interesting movie, but it's hardly about sports. Which is fine because some of the best sports movies aren't about sports. I mean, like look at the whole Rocky franchise, right? Like with some rare and willful exceptions, it's about being an underdog and why do you want something? What are you willing to do it? And like that's one of the reasons why it works.
Populist Rocky.
As opposed to Grudge Match, which traded on, which almost is a good movie. I'm gonna actually make a soft defense. Don't watch Grudge Match because it's terrible. But if you actually do watch it, like I unfortunately did, there was like a draft away of actually being like a pretty good film about like two guys kind of coming to terms with their family, but instead they decided to make it into a comedy. So it ruined like all the heart that the movie could have had.
And you have all of those ideas kind of parodied in Barton Fink, which we talked about last month, where he's trying to write the wrestling picture, and he has the guy wrestling with the soul. He's like, I'm not trying to have someone wrestle with their soul. There's plenty of poetry in the ring. So you have that kind of same idea, where it's like the constant parody of like an artist trying to think higher than like a sports genre, and then it's not what people want to see. People don't want to see.
No, people want to see Andre the Giant wrestle dwarfs, which apparently happened in the 70s. I'm looking at a photo right now. It's great.
I wrestle dwarfs.
Oh, there you go. You are looking at a photo of it right now.
I need to drink more than the dwarfs. Pass me about some of the. So I did so much research for our Princess Bride episode. I was just I was bored that week and everything. There's so many like amazing, and I remember hearing all these Andre the Giant drinking stories when I was younger and like watching videos of them, but like some of them are fucking insane. Like how much he was actually able to consume.
Well, and part of it was a mitigation for like the physical discomfort and pain that he felt.
Yeah.
But like, it was constant and
But he
consistent.
knew it was also
and
going
he
to
very
kill him at a young age. Like he knew that he wasn't going
shocking.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely self-medicating.
Yeah. Well, JB's talking from the void. I don't.
he's the disembodied voice of God now. Yes.
Oh,
But we should talk about broadcast news, which is presumably.
Sensibly. Well, yeah, we're already like really laying into this new format of just talking about what the fuck ever we feel like.
You don't mind that. for the after
I'm
party.
sorry, I didn't know what the after party was all about.
No,
And
it's fine, dude. It's Panther
After-
optional, videos optional, whatever. It's
No,
chill.
but it
After-
brings us.
after party.
He's definitely
Shots are
partying.
not optional; those are compulsory. Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go.
No, but it brings me to something that I want to talk about with this movie, which is the fact that it highlights the sportscaster as news anchor format, which CNN everyone complains about like the partisan nature of media, which I think is true. I mean, of course, it's never like my politics. It's always like random lib Democrat versus like absolutely fascist, vicious like Sean Hannity style Republican. You know what I mean? Like, but it's starting in 2000. Well, not starting in 2016, but Jeff Zucker, who was the guy that was running ESPN, they tapped him to run CNN instead. And during the 2016 election, like one of the things that people were talking about with how like John Oliver, I remember kind of parodied this because he had like one guy versus like one. He did something where it was like 97 climate scientists versus like one climate denier, and he was like, "This is what the actual numbers of this looks like." But like it kind of became this thing where every news story had to be covered by like two people of opposing teams going at it, and even when the science or whatever it was is so slanted that 97% of climate scientists agree that like global warming is happening, and the other 3% are pretty much like oil, like people hired by oil companies that are like, oh, well, I'll say whatever as long as it kind of makes up for whatever Mobil's paying me. Like they're paying me a shitload of money.
Yeah.
So Jeff Zucker, taking over CNN started this whole trend of like everything kind of has to be done like sports because that's what people want to see. That's entertainment. So you have Will Hurt's character in this, right, coming as a sportscaster. He's like, oh, I know that I'm going to take a lot from you guys because I'm coming from the world of sports and being promoted. He's falling upwards from just being kind of a random sports guy to being a news anchor. I think that really it previewed what was going to happen in the news industry in general.
yeah, because Keith Olbermann actually was a sports guy.
Yeah.
Yep, he was on ESPN with Dan Patrick for years. Yeah, when I actually enjoyed listening to him.
Yeah, back before it became pick and save Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah. But it's funny as the years went along, for Keith Olbermann, he started becoming a Family Dollar, as the years went along on ESPN. Even they even tried to give him like some shows here and there of his own.
He was dating Laura Ingraham for a long time.
Of course he was.
Oh, come on.
Of course he was.
And he was living in
Of course he
Trump
was.
Tower for a bit too.
Yeah, that's why he went so hard at Trump on his independent. Like, I don't even know if you call that a podcast or a news show. He had this YouTube show where he's like,
I know what I call it.
But he's like, I'm gonna be moving out of Trump Tower now.
It's just
What a
Oh, man.
like
I remember
all of that.
I used him for a project. I did a project on Keith Olbermann for a media class because they were talking about like a project of like independent media of some kind that was like, that you could actually make like a partisan statement about or something. I don't remember what the project was, but I took him and I silhouetted him and I drew a bunch of things like Russia and Trump all over it. And
Well, and it's kind of amazing that the newsroom is basically like Sorkin's idea of like taking an Olbermann like personality and like oh, but what if Olbermann, but like I get to like do my thing with this and hopefully do the politics
Sorkinized
but I do journalism. Yeah, he Sorkinized it. He basically Sorkinized
It
it.
made it cringe.
Well, for folks like us, but there's a bunch of people that eat that up like catnip.
And I
Right,
wish they
yeah,
didn't
and
because it's
insane,
caused
too, 'cause,
it's
like-
caused absolutely cataclysmic, horrible things to happen to our society
Sure.
Yeah,
and Canadian society. Because Justin Trudeau said he got the idea, he got his idea of what a politician looks like. He claimed from watching West Wing.
I plan on doing an episode on the movie. What's that movie? That's Charlie Wilson's War, which is
Oh,
Mike
God.
Nichols directed.
Yeah.
And like honestly, like that movie is probably why Hillary Clinton went on on Rachel Maddow and said that she wants to turn
Sorkin has his moments.
wants to turn Ukraine into Afghanistan in the 70s and 80s, which is like one of the most
Yeah.
horrifying things I have ever heard on television.
Well, you literally had Hillary Clinton go on. I think it was on Rachel Maddow's show as soon as the invasion started in Ukraine, and Hillary Clinton went on Rachel Maddow, and the first thing she said is, "Oh, we're doing what we did with the Mujahideen or whatever." Like
Yeah, that's what I just said.
stuff. Yeah, well, yeah.
Is there an
So
echo?
he said that he wanted to turn Ukraine, or they wanted to turn Ukraine into Afghanistan. Like they literally have said that. They've
No, and it's insane, and I'm pretty sure she got the idea from watching Charlie Wilson's War,
Starring Tom
Because-
Hanks, everybody.
because nothing bad happened in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
Well,
no, he got to start at the end.
I mean, not to mention, like, just in general, the whole premise around what really happened in Afghanistan is just worlds apart from what's happening in Ukraine. Just to say something like that is so misinformed and
No, and I am
And
looking
just
for a
half-assed
Afghan
and-
historian. So if anybody out there wants to come on and help us with the history a bit better than me and Joe pulling stuff from please contact me. I need an Afghan
I'm
historian.
sorry I doubled up your statement. I tuned out at some point. I'm just not doing that well tonight. But
Is there like a delay?
No, I just literally I'm just not I've been sick. I'm just tuning out I don't know.
Dude, there's like this. I smell roses, and like I'm like dying right now, and somehow I'm keeping up with the conversation. I got like a nasty headache, and I'm still look at this. Look at this. Maybe it's all the caffeine I just drank.
Yeah, it's probably but I drink caffeine constantly, and like I'm not. But I couldn't even get out of bed yesterday. I was sick as fuck.
Yes.
Hey, I took that at one point. I took that and I wrote this film is dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters, and then I erased Afghanistan. I wrote Ukraine on it.
I've seen Arrakis too. That was also good.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that one was great.
But yeah,
Which is how Doom
everybody-
should have ended.
For those not on the know, or maybe that are listening on audio somehow, what I threw up is the film was dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan, which is off of a Rambo movie,
Rambo
That-
3.
Rambo 3, which predated any of those specific foreign incursions, and is
Yes.
pretty
Also,
freaking
the
awesome.
Living Daylights ends the same way. The James Bond
There you
film with Timothy Dalton.
probably was.
And was in
hey.
blackface too while he was watching The West Wing.
Oh, well,
It's Trudeau. He was in blackface.
y'all heard about this movie?
He was
Broadcast
on brown.
News?
He was on brown face. Trudeau was doing brown face because he was
He was.
Let's clarify. Let the record show.
he was dressed as like a Sikh. Like he had a turban.
I've seen the
Yeah, right.
photos.
Yeah.
Y'all remember Broadcast News? Anybody? Anybody in this panel remember?
Hey,
that?
nobody was
ever
in
seen
blackface
that
in that movie.
white folks, about white folks,
Just
movie
white
about white
folks.
folks.
White
A
folk.
movie
in the
about
West.
a bunch of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, no.
least
Okay,
nobody-
yeah,
at least nobody
so
We talked
broadcast
about
news.
Jack Nicholson, right? Like
Yeah.
the fact that like he took an basically a uncredited
He did-
for a goof role.
Didn't get paid for it as well.
All right, so I have this
Okay.
I have this clip from a I guess Kevin Pollak has a show that he does. That guy. And he has a show that he does where he interviews people.
I
Um,
want
For those of you who
someday. I
don't
want
know,
someday. I want to be introduced on a show like that. I guess this Conan Neutron guy has a show. This
No, but
guy.
that guy's been in like a bunch of. That guy's been in like a bunch of.
I
different
know who
stuff.
it is. That's the
Yeah.
fucking joke,
For
man.
those
That's-
of you who
yeah,
are
yeah.
listening to
I know,
the
but I'm
audio
just saying.
file
So I'm
version,
just, but I didn't
we're
know that he had
seeing one of the
celery.
guys from Willow and Usual Suspects on the screen
Yeah,
right now.
he's got
wearing
a hat.
jaunty hat.
He's got a hat. It's a whole thing.
It's a jaunty hat.
I think his co-host is
Jaunty
like a guy.
Chapeau.
I don't even know the guy's name, but his co-host is a guy that's been in a bunch of other movies, like too. Like he has this weird show where he
Ah, great.
interviews. I don't know. I usually have heard about these kinds of shows. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is
Here we go.
this is James L. Brooks talking about directing Jack Nicholson, both in terms of endearment and in this.
To a gentleman with a jaunty chapeau.
To Jimmy Dore's alter ego, because that's how Jimmy Dore dresses sometimes.
Oh, boy.
Harstoke.
I just remember terms of endearment. There was a sense where Jack had sort of drifted, and it was more than a comeback. It was a reinvention, and just that one shot in the trailer of him being on the Corvette going across, and it was the delivery of the happy, fat, and sassy, sexy Jack Nicholson that was instantly charming and lovable and embraceable, and that dangerous thing that he then carried for the next many years seemed to be somehow reinvented with that part.
It was the first time I directed, and there's Jack Nicholson, and he was great because what he has, and certainly it's the tough thing for an actor movie star to keep alive, is, all creative work is a war against self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is the enemy of creativity. It just is. And so that for an actor, and here I'm a first-time director, the best way for that actor to go is to trust the director. Like he said, Jack said the most incredible thing. I asked him once, "What do you do if you're in it?" It's my favorite one of my favorite things to him. There are a lot. What do you do if there's an actor who really can't act and they're in a scene with you? He says, whatever the other actor's doing is perfect. And of course, that's the perfect.
Jesus.
The minute you think of that, it's just. Holy shit! Yeah. Oh God, that's smart, man. What else?
But how do you get there?
He was, and how do you get to trust somebody who's never done it before when you've done it with distinction so many times? And he sort of does it. And he used to come up behind me, and and he made it fun. I mean, there was a lot of warring on that picture, but he made it fun. And he'd say, "You want to know the worst direction you gave yesterday?" And he'd tell me, "You want to know the best direction?" And it was so great. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
He was great to me out of the box.
Right. And there was a lot of warring going on, of course. I mean, it was covered in every form of those things being covered between the ladies.
Women,
Yeah, right. Oh, God. My sense of being anywhere around him was, don't bother
This would
Jack.
be great if we could do this in an interview. He went, "Oh God," and I go, "Yeah."
And then
And we just stayed with just don't say anything. Just God, man, we're on the same wavelength. We get it. We don't need words, man.
if I didn't have that little fucker in my brain saying, "Talk now, you idiot," I could have stayed in the
We were
moment.
so close
I
there.
know, fuck, because I really was embracing every moment of Jack. I was shocked how silly and goofy he was. I figured for someone to be cool, by the time I worked with him already in the early 90s, he was cool to 4 generations already. In order to be that cool to 4 generations, you would have to have people talk about you, not to you. And I assumed Jack would be off doing that, and that's totally fine. He should be aloof. He was the most approachable, the most gregarious, and then the silly and goofy side really caught me off guard. I'd never seen anyone be that happy in their skin, in their clothes, in their persona, in their.
And now combine it with the vulnerability that everybody, just keeping the vulnerability alive. That's the trick. Keeping
It is the trick.
yeah.
How? Why? It's the greatest magic act.
Let's start mentioning the greatest American actor who's ever lived, and his name's there someplace.
No, he's in the group.
Yeah, that classic thing. I was having an argument years and years ago. You guys, when films, off the '70s great films, maybe early '80s.
Right.
Who's the greatest actor we have? And a friend of mine was picking Dustin Hoffman. I was picking Jack Nicholson, and we're having the argument, sort of a drunken argument. And I won by saying Jack could play either part in The Odd Couple.
That was it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty fucking good. That was it. Holy shit. And then you directed Jack playing Felix. All those years later. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just to prove your point, by the way.
There you go. It's Kevin Pollak with a hat doing a show.
Taking over the Charlie Rose show, apparently, which I didn't realize.
Nobody was using the set, so he just showed up, started using it, and
it got canceled, and he got canceled, Charlie Rose, and
the set pieces were non-returnable. That was a non-refundable chair and table.
I like his line though, the happy, fat, and sassy Jack Nicholson, because that's the Jack Nicholson that appears in broadcast news too. And I don't know if I'd call it a cameo, or I don't know if I'd call it.
It's more than a cameo, but it's less than a supporting actor. Like he's very important to the story, but is more talked about than seen, which I always find characters like that interesting.
He's literally in the movie for 5 minutes. Like if you add all the times, it's like a little less than 5 minutes.
He's kind of the Ned Beatty of his
Burnett Network. Yeah.
in this,
although again more darkly humorous, because there's that they're going into like basically like try to ease the blow of the layoffs, and like they're like, oh yeah is he on the block? Oh okay, that sucks, and then there's there's that great moment as I talked about in the main show where it was like, well, you could just take a pay cut. And he's like, oh no.
And the guy is so exploring the guy, because I think that it works really well, that scene, because they are talent based now, which is what our our new system 100% is, right? Like you have, whether it's Anderson Cooper or Tucker Carlson. I mean, I wouldn't call that news. I'd call that fascist propaganda. But still, you have whether it's
even Michael Brooks. Like a lot of his success was just because he was naturally talented in front of the camera.
Yeah, but nobody was like attending to Michael Brooks every need.
No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that either.
I was in the Majority Report. Majority Report is still, I think, filmed out of a suite that they got into, like in a hotel at the top floor, and it's actually very disconcerting to walk into. But I think that that's a different thing. That is talent, but like I'm talking about this where it's someone.
But no, like there's a thing that you have to be able to like.
There's a thing you got to have. You're doing this motion that's like this thing of us.
Yeah,
Marlon Brando playing the Tom character.
Oh. But here's the rub. Marlon Brando, the age that he was at the time the movie came out.
Yeah,
and he's in brown face like he is in Zapata.
Oh,
yeah, he is in brown face as Zapata, and I'm so curious because I haven't watched View of Zapata yet. I'm watching it tomorrow, and I'm so curious about because it seems like it's a sympathetic vision of Zapata, and I'm so curious to see what that looks like when also you have Marlon Brando doing the Charlton Heston. Brown.
Yeah, and Anthony Quinn actually was born in Mexico. I don't know, when he was born in Mexico, like it still mattered, like if you were white or not, because the
So JB, this is what these guys get up to when we're playing shows. This is what I'm trying to say.
Talking about the levels of brown.
Yeah. What level of brown face is Marlon Brando in this?
I'm gonna make him a brown face they can't refuse.
but no, there was a class thing in Mexico, up until like the 20th century. And it became less and less.
Was there? Okay.
It's exciting that people are going to be paying like $5 on Patreon, and then they're going to be like, "Oh wow, they have great content." What level of brown face was Marlon Brando?
He was a 3.
Are we talking 1 to 10 or 1 to 5? Where on the Crayola scale?
Yeah.
By the way,
You know,
this
you know
show.
that you know that thing that they have where it's from Family Guy with Peter Griffin, and they have the
The
It's
swatch.
just below the
The,
terrorist line.
Oh yeah.
Chip.
If the cops, yeah, like
Yeah.
yes,
yeah.
What level of
that's-
brown face was he?
yeah. So by the way, this show, mostly me, was goofing on Kevin Pollak. By the way, that guy's great. Like Usual Suspects, Casino, War Dogs, Buffalo 66, Few Good Men, as mentioned, Willow. Like he's a great actor. He's
Jimmy
a
Dore
great.
show as the host.
I'm trying to atone, Forrest. Come on, dude.
No.
and
Kevin
you will atone.
That guy's a great that guy actor.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is,
and,
definitely.
Absolutely.
and the
They
fact
call
that he
a
picked
character actor, but now they call that a that guy actor, and he's
and the fact that he
loaded.
picked up Charlie Rose's set on Craigslist for a song is great for that guy. And
And come on the show, Kevin
Yeah.
Pollak.
Oh man, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to Kevin Pollak
I'll
sometime.
bust chops even harder, dude. That guy was in Canadian Bacon, which Re-Examined
Yeah, he
is actually a
was.
pretty kick-ass movie. Like
It-
honestly,
Canadian bacon. I mean, it's yeah. We can
It's
talk
like
about that
Bacon
movie
should have
too.
been.
I definitely love that movie. I mean,
that is a movie that I feel
Yeah.
totally different about now when I saw
Yeah.
it. Like,
I
and-
loved it when I saw it, but I have bad taste in movies, so you know.
We know.
No, but I think it's interesting though. They kind of turned Jack Nicholson because we did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest last month. If you guys remember, all the way back in season 2,
It was 100,000 years ago.
we talked about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there is that dangerous Jack Nicholson character, right? Like no matter what movie he's in, right? Like he's zany, he's dangerous, he's kind of this force to be reckoned with. And
Oh, like you're talking about me. Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, he's playing the Joker right now.
Yeah, exactly. OG
Um,
Joker.
But I feel really bad for making this joke today. But there was that shooting on a subway in the city, and the first thing I thought of was in Joker, where Joaquin Phoenix like kills the guys in the subway.
Oh, the stockbroker road. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, is New York City about to have a Joker moment again? But
And like what? Too soon? As like you're
oh,
reaching in
hey,
and
Gilbert Gottfried. No, but like, so I kind of think it's interesting that he went from having that Easy Riders, Jack Nicholson, like persona into kind of seamlessly transferring into this like happy, fat, and sassy. Like kind of seamlessly transferring into this happy, fat, and sassy Jack Nicholson kind of character, right? Like you have Anger Management as a perfect example. I mean, it's not like I think that movie's funny, like it's amusing, but like I don't think it's a good movie. But you have him doing his and I mean The Departed too is another movie where he kind of
As Good as It Gets, another James L. Brooks, which I did not like that movie, but I will say Jack Nicholson did do a good performance. I'll give him that. But
there should be, if I was running the Oscars, it'd be best performance in a movie I don't give a fuck about. Would be that would be my title.
There'd be a lot of movies getting that. If
Jessica Chastain, Eyes of Tammy Faye. I don't give a fuck about that movie, but she was great in it. It's great.
I would just keep giving Oscars to Power of the Dog. Best performance in a movie I don't give a fuck about.
I liked it, but I get it.
I didn't say I disliked it. I don't feel anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a character. It's a character study for Doctor Strange. That's essentially what it is. He doesn't change the voice at all. He does that same kind of like,
I hate that voice. Like I literally hate Doctor Strange in the MCU.
I don't feel anything about Doctor Strange in the MCU, which is my point about Power of the Dog. It's like a character study of him without the powers.
Yeah, no,
and
but
without
I'm sorry.
Tilda Swinton.
I like the comics. Like give me Kevin Nolan, bro. Like stick Kevin Nolan in my vein. That's the Doctor Strange I love. But I, with that American accent that he does in that and Doctor Strange, like annoys me so much. I was so glad when he got snapped away. I was hoping he wouldn't come back.
I don't know if
Sam Raimi's directing it.
I know, which is painful because now I want to watch it. And there's a rumor Bruce Campbell return his ass.
Watching this right now, but Benedict Cumberbatch's like American accent reminds me of Hugh Laurie in House, like the American accent, like that.
Exactly.
That
I agree.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's this
Fair.
bad British accent, British making an American accent that is all over the BBC, and that's exactly what he's doing. Like he's approximating what he thinks. It sounds like to British people like when they heard Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's the exact same thing whenever I hear Benedict Cumberbatch speak.
I mean, I don't feel that strongly about it either way. I'm just saying that the voices were the same in Doctor Strange and in Power of the Dog. But back to this movie. No, the two kind of it's interesting to turn Jack Nicholson's career into those two things, because I don't think now he necessarily takes dangerous roles. I mean, I don't know if there are dangerous roles really. Like
He's too old.
doesn't really-
I mean, he's retired now.
He considers himself retired, right?
But I mean, you have to look back to something like Easy Riders, or
Bucket
something
List?
like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
I
or
don't know. Batman might be his last like danger. The Batman and the Two
Yeah.
Jakes, which came out the same year. I would say probably like 1989 was the expiration.
Oh, yeah, the Two Jakes. That's a Chinatown sequel. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, because like I just rewatched Wolf, and he was not dangerous in that.
well, I'm not saying that his character always has to be dangerous, but these are roles that are not. It's not a movie that's destined to definitely be on. I mean, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is an all-time great movie, but I don't think reading the script that you would necessarily be like, oh, this movie is going to have the shelf life that it did have. Easy Riders. People still talk about Easy Riders. I don't think reading the script for that, you're going to say, hey, this might be a movie that actually transcends time and actually like acts as a snapshot of a certain moment in Hollywood.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying that like Wolf, for example, like it is the cuddly Jack Nicholson. It's
back to Wolf, everybody. We're back to Wolf.
Which works because like
movie
James
about
Spader-
Wolf Blitzer at CNN.
Yeah, exactly.
Brings us back
Let's
to
roll
broadcast
documentary.
news.
Jack
So
Nicholson
Werewolf
as Wolf
movie
Blitzer.
with
A role you would not
James
believe.
Spader. Come on, Michelle Pfeiffer.
No, but
I'm familiar. I just don't care about it.
it's.
No,
I'm
it's not
just
that
saying
good.
it's interesting to divide Jack Nicholson's career into those two things, and you can tell that in this movie because he doesn't really have a big role. I mean, this definitely is more than a cameo, but it kind of takes you to this moment when you at the end of the movie where you realize that Tom ends up being the person that takes down Jack Nicholson's character. You know what I mean? Like they say, like he's replaced. Like Jack Nicholson
Heir
goes
apparent,
into that like early retirement. So he takes over for him. So you're seeing like this Tom style news sequence kind of fully take form, because even the person that's making millions of dollars the day that Tom gets sent to London is the cutthroat that takes out Jack Nicholson's character.
Yeah. But I feel like that's kind of but that's how it goes, right? I mean, you're always.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when you're in that place, you're always a second away from losing your job. But somebody else
and this
coming up
movie shows
behind you.
that. And this movie, when you get to the point where everybody is, there's the massive layoffs. Like it shows that very well. Like everybody's up for. Like I like the line that that Ernie says to him, where he's like, these aren't even done with seniority anymore. Like this is a layoff.
Yeah.
It's anybody. There's like a recklessness in the air, and that's a very true depiction of what newsrooms were like at this point. And the battle between kind of informative and, as Conan's middle name, infotainment, the battle between informative news and entertainment news really was taking hold at that point. And colleges have taken the Sorkin pill, and as someone that took media. Well, no, as someone that took classes about media, in 2017, I graduated.
It's not a pill; it's a line of powder.
Yeah, you chop it up. Actually,
As someone who has
Yeah.
Sorkin lines, like colleges still kind of do teach it as if it's a battle between like information and entertainment. Like they do teach it as that, and when you actually watch news, it's not that. When you watch news, it's purely entertainment. It's Tucker Carlson, it's Rachel Maddow. This version of Rachel Maddow, not whatever version Andy was watching. So you see that now, and it's kind of it's
which was literally just the version before 2016 is what
Yeah.
in Andy's credit. Like she wasn't always the shill that she was. She used to be a good
honestly, and like
investigator.
her first book's pretty good, but like I listened to her podcast that she did where it was like breaking this big story, and it was a nothing burger, and it was like making such a big deal. It was so obnoxious.
We really do not and should not discuss Rachel Maddow, but it is a sad story.
Yeah, but
well, you see the same thing with friend of show, because I said hi to him, Chris Hayes. He was.
I saw him on the subway. I said hi. We're friends now.
No, he lives in New Paltz. He has his summer house.
Oh, does he really?
And when we first started the show, I saw him 5 different times. We got to be friends to the point where I would wave hi and he'd say hi. Like we had a whole. We would be on the rail trail at the same time. He had this motor, but like so this summer when we started the show, I saw Chris Hayes 5 different times when we were doing shows, like randomly.
But
But
Chris Hayes, you like Stalker?
I don't track these people down. They just
Which is
happen to
hilarious
be-
because like every single time he saw
It was
Chris
on
Hayes,
the
before
Quiet
the
Place
show episode,
bridge,
he'd be like,
too.
"Saw Chris Hayes again."
It was on the bridge from the Quiet Place. That's where I saw Chris Hayes.
Yeah, JB. So the reference to that is that that movie, The Quiet Place, the John Krasinski and Emily Blunt movie.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them, I guess. But anyway, they filmed that around where Forrest lives, so it's been
so
brought on the
there's-
show.
It's more than just that. So
Oh,
there's
great. Let's hear about it.
no New Paltz has bike trails in the like as you go towards like the next town over, or as you go towards like out of town. There's all of these bike trails. In the middle of the bike trails, when you actually go towards like the next town over, the bridge that they filmed The Quiet Place on, is like the last thing you really have on the New Paltz side of things before you start heading towards Rosendale. So like that's kind of where, if you're on the rail trail, like where you will see people, and and that is where I so Chris Hayes this summer, when we first started the show, Chris Hayes was like lives in New Paltz. He lives on the road next to that, and he was on the rail trail when I was like caught in a storm, and like the first day we did the show, I like saw him like a day before. Well, look, Gilbert Gottfried, he had it coming. I won't say what he said.
Can I just say, because I just want to get away from whatever the hell it is we're talking about, the other movie that Jack Nicholson did this year, Witches of Eastwick, everybody, Witches of Eastwick, which, fun fact, directed by George Miller, Mad Max George Miller, Witches of Eastwick, everybody, yes.
But
So if we ever do like a witch month.
my
like
point that I
Wild
was trying to
Island?
make is that Chris Hayes, I forget which, it was a book about like the elite or whatever, and Chris Hayes had that book that was far more progressive than his politics are on MSNBC, and so so it's a similar story to like the Rachel Maddow thing, where you write a book about an actual like story, and you connect these things, and then as you get involved in MSNBC and the direction that it's taken since the Trump presidency, like you go further and further right while hosting one of these shows.
Yep, lots of people like talking about that. I am not one of them. So about broadcast news, there's a Criterion collection of this. There's a Criterion edition with a lot of stuff, and I think that's actually justified. A friend of the show and former featured guest Ron Pertee actually like made a allusion / allusion, not illusion, / joke about that. But I think it's worthy. I think it's it's an illusion. I think it's worthy of the Criterion.
Yeah, unlike what is that, Reversal of Fortune, which somehow has a Criterion collection, which is like the fuck. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, but I'm about to blow your mind after I quickly fact check myself that I think there is a Independence Day Criterion collection, if I remember correctly.
Not anymore.
Armageddon. Sorry, my bad.
Not anymore.
Really?
It's been taken away. It's been taken away.
Really?
Slap.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not Independence Day, which would be more understandable. It's Armageddon. Here's how I know this: Brian
Really?
Beasley, aka Bird Stuff of Man or Astro Man, brought it up to me when he was on Protonic Reversal, and has threatened, not promised, but threatened to send me a copy because he owns 2 of them and has not yet done that. So Brian Beasley calling you out for that. Yeah, Criterion Collection Edition of Armageddon. Independence Day would actually be like any one universe. I'm like, you know what? It does a thing. Like, I can fuck with it.
Yeah, no. Police Story has a Criterion collection, and I'm down with that.
Yeah.
So I have
Anyway.
one more. I have one more clip I want to play before.
I was trying to get us
broadcast
back on track
news
and took us way
It's
off
another
track.
Kevin Pollak
I'm
clip.
still stuck on like Angie Dickinson police story. Is that because
No, Jackie Chan.
Oh, yeah. I'm out.
Yeah. So this is the last clip that I wanted to play. It's
Kevin Pollak, fresh off of the estate sale of Charlie Rose.
He's talking about Albert Brooks, and this is where I wanted to close out the conversation because, Andy's got to go before 11:30, and we've been doing this.
Indeed, we have.
Yeah, it was one of the hardest things that we did in the movie was finding the house where we could do that scene, finding the house that was Albert's house. Because I think a 10, 12-minute scene with two people, and the staging of it was very important, and I knew I needed levels, and I knew I wanted him to leave at some certain point.
Right.
And we rehearsed it, and it was an emotional rehearsal, rehearsing it. We were just all working late one night before that happened. And then, but seeing the movie, I don't think you can exaggerate how Albert did it, because that monologue was the guy. It never was not the guy. It was always the guy's moment. It wasn't a fancy bit of writing that was there to. It was just he just did that, and working with a great actress, and when she and I think there are. And I think they fed off each other. I think Holly did something, like there are two things when I look at it. I think what Albert did is uncanny.
Yeah.
It's when he imitated the devil, but the fact that it
comes in the middle of a heartbreak.
It just had a life all its own. It was a lot of things. But the little things were in the stage. What's in my mind is the difficulty of staging her when she came around once. What's in my mind was when he said "I love you" and she went, which I thought was. When people hit it out of the park, it's so wild. And then one thing that's just it's just a director's thing. There are two things in the movie that just. One where just before a take, I put a piece of red futz on Albert's shirt, and it's just on the shirt, and he just goes like that, and I celebrated that for 2 weeks. Like nobody ever did that. It's just like happens in life, and it happens to you all the time. It's in the movie, and so that insanity that you need to do it. Right. And then when she sat on the magazines and just did that, just stupid stuff. But in terms of, he never didn't do it great. Right. It was not, but I just do think that's, I'll put him up there for one of the monologues that ever happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going to throw this up here for some compare and contrast. Same table, y'all. Same table.
I was going to say that Simon Pegg copied that bit in Shaun of the Dead where he just keeps on going, "You have red on you."
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead, great movie.
Albert Brooks. Sean Penn of the Dead.
Remember when Sean Penn was in Shaun of the Dead, the titular Shaun of the Dead? Anyway, he seems like a pretty fucking cool guy, Albert Brooks.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is he like a shithead or something? Has he done anything terrible? Like,
I assume not. I do like that James L. Brooks' energy kind of reminds me of Larry David. In those interviews, and Albert Brooks is like friends with Larry David. Like, I don't know, I wonder how similar their relationships are.
It's that Curb Your Enthusiasm episode that we talked about in the main show was fantastic. Like, it was like really like I appreciate it.
It's definitely sad that he's replacing what's his friend that passed away, that I always forget the guy's name.
Gilbert Gottfried. Too soon.
Well, was he naked in Central Park?
No, he's always I think he's the friend that. Well, number one, Richard Lewis was sick this season, so he couldn't. He'd only do one episode with Richard Lewis, and Bob Einstein, his friend that does Funkhauser, passed away.
Oh yeah.
So it felt like Larry David like kind of had to add some friends in the season, and he got Albert Brooks as like one of it because it's like he hasn't appeared in any of the other seasons. It's something he's doing.
The guy that's Super Dave Osborne is how I think of it because I'm old.
Yeah, the guy from Super Dave. So so he it's kind of sad that like it feels like Larry David's friends are starting to go, and he's got to add some new friends. But Albert Brooks did a good job.
Can I say, if we're talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm, the addition of JB Smoove as a regular is like one of my favorite things about that show because I love everything about that guy. That guy is astounding talent.
It's amazing that they turned it from like a side plot kind of, right, where like the family just, the hurricane happened and they had to move in and they didn't have a place to go, and so Larry David's like, oh, you could stay here to like, because his wife kind of wanted to seem like she was like doing like his wife wanted to do some which you have to think like, she's not working in that show besides as an actress sometimes, so it's like she wants to do a bunch of like charity stuff, and which is what actors do. But like to have them actually move, like to have a family actually move into their house, obviously is an incredibly disruptive thing. And the fact that JB Smoove never left, like the rest,
he just never leaves. Yeah, and he just like kind of dirtbags it up and just basically becomes like Larry's best friend, and like he's just a regular on the show now. I love it's so good because that guy is just the kind of guy you see that where just you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Was he a writer for The Onion back in the day?
I don't know.
Because he would have like if it's who I think it is, he had a sex column, like sex advice column.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same person.
I think that was a character.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same person.
JB Smoove has been in a lot of things. He's been
because I just remembered the line, corn will also be served.
No, you're thinking that's a different thing. But
like, the other thing is
he was on SNL.
Larry David kind of the point that he's making in that show is about these kind of niceties and small talk, and like the way that he treats people in his life is incredibly passive aggressive, right? Like what happens if you push past that? Like what happens if you're being passive aggressive and telling the person you're being passive aggressive and telling the person to get out of your house or whatever, and they just go, no, you know what I mean? Like, and do something back with this, like cheerful, like, yeah, I know you're just kidding or whatever. And to have him actually be living there, like so many years later, he's still living on Larry David's property. And Larry David is still like half-assed making, because they're like friends, but Larry David is still making these like half-assed, like, why don't you move out kind of comments. And he just ignores them every time.
Which is great. And it creates a great dynamic between the two. Because like JB Smoove's character like absolutely like not only tolerates but kind of buys into like Larry's stuff, like, and kind of like encourages him in some weird ways.
Yeah,
like it's a great way to easily escalate things. Anyway, this has been the Curb Your Enthusiasm podcast. So thank you.
I love that he brings lamp in. He's like, Larry, I'm just lamping.
and he can say and Larry gets to understand what lamping is. Yeah, it's great.
But I've had people actually say lamping as a phrase, and I've never heard it until Curb Your
Enthusiasm. Public Enemy.
Cole Lampin said in the first coined it in the first record in 1987. Yeah,
that was
funny. JB Smoove. I don't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm because the show frustrates me to no end. But
you have to be
design, which I'm sure it's just isn't.
I mean, I can't binge it for that reason.
But,
like it's not like social awkward.
It calls its shot and does the exact thing, which is tortuous for some people, and like inclusive of myself sometimes. Yeah.
But JB Smoove has, this might be an unpopular view, but JB Smoove has become, like, I feel like the black actor that, and I think he could, and the thing is he's a good actor and he's funny, but he's like kind of we need to black this show up. he's become that guy, and then throughout, there's been all sorts of people. He was in Next Friday and Friday After Next. He took over for Chris Tucker. He was kind of that guy for a while. What's his name? Oh, damn, I can't remember.
There are no Friday sequels. There's just the only the movie Friday.
Sure, but there was.
Well, there's the Friday sequel where they get on Epstein's plane and things are weird.
You know, there was Next Friday and Friday After.
Why
Next.
the fuck?
I'm not saying they're good.
On
I'm not
Jeffrey
saying they were
Epstein's
good.
plane. He's not even that big. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why is he one of the people that gets on? I don't know.
Yeah, there's that dude. In fact, he plays Richard Pryor on Winning Time. If anybody's watching that right now.
Oh, is that good?
Yeah,
I saw that.
It's very good. I don't know how accurate it is because I've even found some stuff that was, but it's good. It's well done. I love the way it's done. Super, very unique. But I feel like
what happened to that guy? That guy just fucking.
He got on the Epstein plane and we never heard about him again.
Yeah, exactly. He just never got off it. Apparently, like.
But
are they coming? Are they coming back? Are they like? He's dead. He's dead, Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Yeah.
I love the original Friday, but I refuse.
Oh, it's great movie. Great movie that shows that actually did a great job of showing a piece of Black culture that is really hard for people to understand. But they made it. They did a really good job of making it lighthearted enough, but also like, I mean, it's there should be a podcast about that.
I like how we could. I know some people with a movie podcast, but I like how
you know some people with a movie podcast.
Who's that? I know we're talking about we're talking about broadcast news, but I can't help but because I'm only ripping off of you guys. I'm going off of
the after parties like it's what it
started with JB Smoove, and now we're talking about Chris Tucker and Friday.
I like JB Smoove.
I do too. I just feel like he's becoming that guy. Yeah.
He's becoming to be the Chris Tuckerization of JB Smoove. Yes.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is the least Black show I think that's ever been conceived by it.
It's the whitest show.
Oh no.
Well, you only say "oh no" because now JB Smooth's involved.
If I may, I just want to
white people problems taken to it's like.
Well, of course it is. I mean, of course it is. I mean, it's like Seinfeld. You know, obviously related. People always like, how can you not like Seinfeld? Seinfeld wasn't for me.
I don't like.
I
don't like Jerry Seinfeld as a.
But that show was not made for my consumption. Not that other because I do know literally 2 Black people that love Seinfeld, but it's just
literally 2 white people
made for us. I mean, it just and TV and movies are literally You guys watch more movies. You guys watch way more movies than I do. But I know that literally when movies are set to be made, if they're going to try and target a different audience other than a white audience, they will do that in some sort of way. It's a deliberate choice,
No, they pander to audiences.
Exactly. But it's deliberate. But it's always deliberate. Yeah. It's never a thought of we'll just see where it ends up, or we'll just
But I mean, I would argue that we're kind of at this weird point where not this weird point, but we're at this interesting point where like Marvel, let's say, targets everybody, right? Like their movies are meant to be but Marvel movies are meant to be consumed by anybody that, like, you know what I mean? Like they have a diverse array of characters. They whatever. Like I don't think that Marvel's
he knows where I'm going.
Well, I don't think that Marvel's looking at purely white audiences and saying how can we get as many. They're looking at
but they are though. I mean, and I only mean it in this way because it's all about the money. It's all about money in the end. But look at this. Like I think about look at our first. Okay, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk. Captain America, Thor, Iron Man 2. You know, the Avengers, yeah. I mean, you don't get your first real, I mean, and I know Rhodey, I'm just going to say this. Rhodey doesn't count.
No.
In the sense, because they don't really start featuring him till later, because literally
like the
somebody
Avengers.
said to Marvel one day, you know what? Maybe I
Rhodey,
think you're going to
Rhodey's
start having
basically,
a problem with-
Avenger
you know,
so white. Thank you.
Robert Downey Jr.'s like Black Friend. That's it.
yeah.
That's just all he is.
I don't think that they started out at that point. What I'm trying to
Sure.
say is that at this point in the Marvel universe or whatever, I think that they're going for as diverse
well,
an audience
yeah.
as possible.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
want
And
your
I
money.
think
They
Eternals
want
is
your
a good
money. They
example of
want
what
my
Forrest
money.
is
They
talking
want
about.
they want a family in China's money. They want a family. Like,
Sure,
literally,
yeah.
it's literally, it's not just that it's suddenly a series of movies that are just pandering to American audiences. They're going for a world audience.
But
So
that's fairly recent.
yeah.
I mean, that
No, yeah,
really
yeah,
is
sure.
within the last, like,
I mean, Iron Man was
5,
definitely not a
7
movie
years.
that they were formatting towards a non-white and non-American audience. That's
Yeah.
definitely a movie like that. I'm just talking about where the Marvel universe ended up. It's interesting to see a series of movies that are so sanitized and so I think broad in who they're targeting, that it's literally meant to just target anybody. Like,
I
I
agree.
think that's worked to the
I would
detriment
agree
sometimes.
yeah, definitely. I mean, but I feel like that's a fairly recent.
It is recent.
Yeah.
No, you're
You know,
100% right.
And
yeah.
but like the TV shows are a little bit different because like I will
yeah.
say the 2 episodes of Moon Knight has been doing really great job bringing in like Egyptian talent, which is something we don't normally see on TV, which is exciting.
Mhm.
I like to see I like to see that kind of stuff. So they got like not just on camera, behind the camera too. So
Yeah.
we get some talented Egyptian people,
Yeah.
and I'm happy for that. Even though I don't know what Oscar Isaacs is, but that's fine. He's a great choice for Moon Knight.
Anyway,
white.
we should wrap this up.
Moon Knight
Anyone
is.
have any last thoughts on Broadcast News, the movie that we're presumably?
Oh yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
So I have one thing. The one great thing about any movie that Albert Brooks is in, they always have a scene or two, whether it's defending your life or or whatever. They always have people in the background saying things, and in fact, there's the one scene where Holly Hunter's giving her speech at the beginning of the movie, and then after the whole domino thing happens, and everyone just starts walking out, and Holly Hunter's was like, I hope you get used to it because you're going to be seeing a lot more of that. And then it's like a pregnant pause of like maybe 2 seconds, and all of a sudden, good. It's coming from the back, like just
and
loud enough to be audible in you. Good.
I mean, it's kind of a fascinating thing,
So
right?
good.
Like
So
that kind of entertainment news that people do like watching, because people don't like information heavy news. Like that is a big reason why they've moved away from it, right? Like it's not just that like they've taken money incentives. The money goes towards them because people enjoy seeing that kind of news. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that even like they're making the point that even the broadcast news people, like even the people that are working in that field are like, well, yeah, we don't want to watch your kind of news either. Any of us. Like, thank God we're finally going to see the dominoes thing instead of whatever you were talking about with the salt.
I just love the production value in the background where there's always like somebody at some point like says something like that you're really not supposed to hear, but you hear it.
Yeah, that's me.
Same thing during
that may have been me the other night, by the way. Like at the show, JB, you remember this? Where was this? Where somebody said something, and I was like, I don't care about that information.
Yeah,
like at all.
But I mean, they do the same thing.
To be fair, I did
sweating scene where they're talking in the background. They're like, I don't even think Nixon sweated this much. And
yeah. Well, Defending Your Life, another Albert Brooks movie, which is a great movie. There's a point where he's supposed to be, he's dead and he's defending his life, but he goes to this comedy club and this comedian's just bombing, and you hear like comments from people like coughing in the background. I love that kind of shit. I'm a sucker for that. I'm all for it. So that's my lasting thought.
I just want to say two things. Albert Brooks is not related to James Brooks.
Yes.
It's true.
Which is an easy mistake to make. You know, there was
Yeah,
no nepotism in casting.
And
him.
definitely not related to Mel Brooks.
No.
It's a conspiracy theory we're going to debunk right now.
But honestly, I think this might actually be, from what I've seen of James Brooks's filmography, like the high point right here, because it's all downhill for the most part.
Well, I mean, right after this, he gets involved in The Simpsons, and that's
Yeah, which is the other high point in his career. You know, like
Oh yeah, so it went downhill to his other high point of his career.
well, it's
But-
movie
but
James
he didn't-
Brooks,
he-
going downhill. TV James Brooks going uphill.
yeah, no. But so as far as movies go, like name me another movie. I mean, we mentioned As Good as It Gets, and that's as good as it got for him.
Oh, how long have you been
Hey.
line out?
But I mean, he did like an Adam Sandler movie, like
That was like a kidney stone for Andy to pass that one. That was, I was like, I can't wait. I'm gonna do it. I got like 2 minutes left.
That movie, As Good as It Gets, that's as good as it got. Oh,
Got him.
yes.
Heyo.
Which
Man.
James L. Brooks come on the show.
I enjoyed this movie, like legit, because like I said, I when I was 10 when it came out, no interest in watching it because it's one of those movies that has gotten forgotten over the course of time. I've just never thought to watch it, and so JB, thank you for putting this in front of me. So
Yeah.
because I did enjoy it, and I have I still feel that Albert Brooks was absolutely toxic, and that makes such an interesting thing. Like he's almost the opposite of Tom because Tom is toxic professionally, where he's toxic personally, and who really is the bad guy here?
No.
James L. Brooks for writing this.
Very astute.
I'd say the movie Spanglish was the real enemy here.
Oh.
That's the Adam Sandler one, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it sure is.
I'd say Adam Sandler is the enemy of this podcast because most of his movies have fucking sucked.
I'll love To Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems, Masterworks, but
I like anger management too.
that the hit ratio of that man is lower than Kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, little Nicky.
But he nevertheless made millions.
Just like Kiss.
Well, and that's falling upwards. Adam Sandler is literally the definition of falling upwards.
Yeah.
Man,
In spite of himself.
I bought the Hanukkah song.
And that's because he has Holly Hunter in his ear, and Holly Hunter is giving him
Exactly.
career advice.
Yeah, she's like
"Oh,
listing all the Jews.
I didn't say Holly Hitler. I said Holly Hunter.
Oh, my bad. Which does bring us back to Gilbert Gottfried, who did play Hitler in Highway to Hell.
Mein Kampf! And I think that's the joke I'm going to end this episode.
That's
Thank
the
you.
one, huh? All right.
Mein Kampf!
R.I.P. to a legend.
R.I.P. to a legend, indeed.